April 4th, 2023, just before dawn in London. A crash breaks the early morning quiet. Bang! Police! Open up! Armed officers force their way through the front door. A sleepy suspect looks down the barrel of a rifle. At the same time, raids are happening in 17 countries. FBI agents kick in an apartment in New York. In Sydney, police smash down a door. A coordinated global takedown is in motion. The operation is called Operation Cookie Monster. The target is Genesis Market, a hidden website that linked many of the people being raided. Some in the cyber world called it the Amazon of stolen identities. Over 100 arrests followed in the hours after the raids. But the bigger questions were, how did a single illegal website become the go-to shop for criminals around the world? And why did it take a military-style worldwide operation to shut it down? The story starts in 2018. Around then, cyber criminals faced a growing problem. Stealing a password no longer guaranteed access to a person's account. More and more services use two-factor authentication, 2FA, sending extra security codes to the victim's phone. Even with a correct login, the system might flag the attempt. This is not the usual device. Try again. For hackers, breaking into accounts was getting hard. Right then, an invite-only site quietly appeared on the dark web. Its name, Genesis Market. At first glance, the site looked ordinary. It had a user-friendly layout, search boxes and filters like any shopping site, but instead of selling books or gadgets, Genesis sold something far more dangerous: digital identities. These were not just stolen usernames and passwords. Genesis sold full identity kits taken from computers infected by malware around the world. When a victim's computer was secretly infected, the malware collected small pieces of their digital life, saved logins, cookies, browser fingerprints, and other device markers. Genesis bundled all that data from a single computer into what it called a bot. Each bot had everything a crook needed to pretend to be the victim online: email addresses, banking logins, cookies that showed an existing session, and device fingerprints. Genesis Market listed these bots for sale, often at shockingly low prices. A full digital identity might cost only a few dollars, sometimes less than a cup of coffee. Login details for a UK user could sell for under $1. More valuable sets, like a wealthy person's bank login or multiple corporate accounts, might reach a couple of $100 at most. The site's owners made it easy for buyers to find what they wanted. Need a bank login in Canada or a crypto account in France? Genesis let buyers filter by country and service. It was a one-stop shop for identity theft, an Amazon-like bazaar where criminals could fill a shopping cart with other people's stolen digital lives. Business boomed. By 2019 and 2020, word of Genesis spread through the criminal underground. On hacking forums, people talked about it in low, almost reverent tones. The invite-only system gave it an air of exclusivity. Some paid for referral codes just to get in. The administrators, believed to be in Russia, kept a low profile but grew their stock. They quietly advertised on Russian-language forums and recruited more hackers to supply stolen data. Each new malware infection meant another bot for sale. Another person who probably had no idea their identity was copied. Genesis quietly became one of the largest cybercrime markets. Most ordinary people never heard of it. It hid in the shadows, and yet it was also bold. Genesis even had a site on the open web, not only on the dark web, though an invite was still needed to log in. It was a giant theft market hiding behind a simple login, daring authorities to catch it. For a while, no one did. While Genesis grew, it armed thousands of criminals with the tools to impersonate innocent people online. Criminals recognized how powerful it was and used it in ways that shook basic digital security. But how did these stolen identity kits actually work? What could someone do with a few cookies and passwords? To show that, put yourself in the shoes of a criminal. Alex is a low-level criminal who gains access to Genesis. He spends a few dollars in Bitcoin to buy a bot. Stolen data for a victim we'll call Sarah. The bot gives Alex everything to become Sarah online: logins, saved cookies, and Sarah's device fingerprint. Using a special tool from Genesis, a custom browser called Genome, and a browser plugin, Alex loads Sarah's stolen profile into his browser. Suddenly, his browser looks exactly like Sarah's laptop. When Alex visits Sarah's bank website, the bank treats him like the real Sarah. From the bank's view, the login looks identical. Same browser, same device fingerprint, and a valid cookie that says Sarah is already logged in. No password, no security question, no two-factor authentication, just access. In seconds, Alex is inside Sarah's bank account without ever knowing her password or touching her phone. He quickly transfers money to himself. Meanwhile, Sarah is asleep in California. Her phone doesn't buzz for an authentication code. She gets no alert because the bank's systems see no new login at all, only an existing session. By the time Sarah wakes and notices missing money, it is too late. The thief is gone. Stories like this happened again and again because Genesis made it point-and-click simple to rob online accounts. Criminals did not need to be elite hackers. The secret was cookies and fingerprints. A cookie is a small file websites use to remember you. A fingerprint is a set of details about your device, browser, and system that often is unique. Normally, these help verify a real user. But if a criminal steals both, they steal your online identity. They can wear a perfect digital disguise and pass right past security checks and multi-factor authentication. The hacker does not need to crack your password or hack your phone. Your saved login session itself is the prize. Genesis Market turned identity theft into a service. Need access to some stranger's Gmail for a few bucks? Genesis likely had a bot for it. Want to break into a company? Search the marketplace for an employee's credentials. In one example, a man in New York paid about $100 on Genesis for 21 stolen identity packages. Using those, he defrauded government programs of over $25,000 before he was caught. Genesis lowered the skill bar for cybercrime. Even small-time fraudsters could pose as dozens of people online. The FBI called Genesis a key enabler for ransomware gangs, helping hackers scale their attacks. By 2022, Genesis had tens of thousands of bots listed at any time. The site claimed over 80 million account credentials and more than 2 million victims. These were ordinary people, not just CEOs or rich people. Anyone unlucky enough to have malware on their computer could end up on Genesis. The result was an invisible crime wave. Most victims did not know they were hit until it was too late. Trust in basic online security began to erode. If a padlock icon and a password were not enough to ensure only you can access an account, then what was? Law enforcement took notice. By late 2022, cybercrime units around the world knew something big was happening. Reports kept coming in of logins that did not trigger alerts. All signs pointed to Genesis. The FBI, Europol, and many national agencies quietly teamed up to target the market. They named the effort Operation Cookie Monster, a nod to the browser cookies being traded and a sign they intended to gobble up the operation. Taking down Genesis would be hard. The site used invites and hidden servers, and its operators were likely in a country beyond Western reach. Agencies had to be creative and cooperative. They followed the money, traced the malware, and worked with private cybersecurity firms to analyze the malicious tools and infrastructure. Undercover agents infiltrated the marketplace. The breakthrough came when the FBI obtained copies of Genesis's back-end servers. Those servers held the user database and activity logs, a treasure trove of information on buyers and sellers. Officials said the data included about 59,000 user accounts in their activity. With that, investigators began to unmask real identities behind screen names. They found users all over the world, from small-time fraudsters to organized crime figures. The trap was set. Operation Cookie Monster moved into its final phase. Agencies in Europe, North America, and Australia planned a synchronized strike so targets in different countries would be hit at once and could not warn each other. The date was set for the first week of April 2023. Secrecy held. In the early hours of April 4th, the trap was sprung. In dozens of cities, officers executed raids at the same moment. Around 200 searches took place, and roughly 120 arrests were made worldwide. Genesis's site was seized. Visitors saw a banner with the FBI seal and logos from 17 countries. The marketplace that had listed data from over 1.5 million compromised computers was offline. Operation Cookie Monster was hailed as a major win. Authorities had removed one of the underground economy's key enablers and placed a huge stock of stolen data into police hands. Experts said the absence of Genesis would slow cybercrime, at least for a while. Police and cyber groups even offered tools for people to check if their data had been sold on Genesis. The raids did not catch the site's owners. The core operators remained free, likely in a jurisdiction beyond reach. But the marketplace, as it had existed for 5 years, was finished. The case made one thing clear. Our digital defenses can be fragile when faced with this kind of threat. Genesis Market was gone, but the ways it abused security was still exposed. Its shutdown was a victory, but also a warning.